Good evening, fellow time travelers and insomniacs. Tonight, we're not embarking on a grand adventure or witnessing a spectacular downfall. Instead, we're settling in for a long, slow descent into historical twilight. We're about to explore how Rome, that eternal city, didn't so much collapse as it did doze off. Imagine, if you will, an empire not conquered by barbarian hordes or felled by a single catastrophic event, but one that simply forgot to set its alarm. That's the Rome we're visiting tonight. A Rome that didn't fall so much as it hit the snooze button one too many times. Before we drift too far into our historical slumber, I have a small request. If you find yourself oddly comforted by this tale of civilizational bedtime, consider gently tapping that like button and subscribing. It helps keep this channel from fading into obscurity, much like our dear Roman Empire. And as always, whisper in the comments where in the world you're unwinding from this evening. It's always fascinating to see our global community of history enthusiasts and insomniacs coming together. Now, let's dim the lights of history and explore how Rome, once the bright beacon of the ancient world, slowly dimmed its own brilliance. We'll start, not with the fall, but with the yawn. That moment when Rome first began to feel a bit sleepy. Picture yourself in the late 4th century. The air is thick with the scent of decline, but it's not the dramatic fiery end you might expect. No, this is more like the musty smell of old scrolls left too long in a damp cellar. The once mighty Roman legions are now more interested in comfortable beds than battlefield glory. The Senate debates not grand conquests, but the finer points of tax collection and grain distribution. You, dear listener, find yourself walking the streets of Rome, but it's not the Rome of legend. The marble is chipped, the fountains are running a bit dry, and there's a general air of, well, let's call it extended siesta. The people around you aren't panicking about the end of their world, they're just tired. Tired of constant political squabbles, tired of economic instability, tired of trying to maintain an empire that's grown too big for its toga. As you stroll past the forum, you overhear snippets of conversation. Did you hear? Another emperor was overthrown. The speaker yawns, as if discussing nothing more exciting than yesterday's bread prices. This is the new normal in Rome. Political upheaval has become as commonplace as the daily trip to the baths. Speaking of baths, let's take a detour to one of Rome's famous public bathhouses. Once a symbol of Roman engineering and social life, you find it's seen better days. The water's a bit murky, the mosaics are cracking, and there's a distinct lack of enthusiasm among the bathers. It's as if the entire empire is soaking in a lukewarm tub, too comfortable to get out, but slowly realizing the water's getting cold. Now, you might be thinking, surely someone noticed this decline. Surely there were great leaders trying to reverse the trend. Well, yes and no. There were certainly emperors who tried to shake Rome out of its stupor. Take Diocletian, for instance. He attempted to reorganize the empire, splitting it into more manageable chunks. It was like trying to wake up a sleeping giant by gently poking it with a very long stick. It stirred a bit, but ultimately just rolled over and went back to sleep. As night falls on our imaginary tours of declining Rome, you find yourself in a taverna, sipping watered-down wine and listening to the locals grumble. They're not talking about the glory days of conquest or the philosophical debates of old. No, they're complaining about inflation, about how their denarii don't buy what they used to. The empire's economy is like a sleepwalker, stumbling from one crisis to another, never quite waking up to fix the underlying issues. You might be wondering, where are the barbarians? Wasn't Rome sacked? But that's the thing about this slow decline. The barbarians didn't just show up one day and knock down the gates. They'd been there all along, slowly integrating, serving in the army, even rising to high positions. Rome didn't fall to outside invaders so much as it slowly blended with them, like a sleepy person unconsciously cuddling up to the nearest warm body. As you prepare to leave this fading Rome, you realize something profound. The fall of Rome wasn't a dramatic crash. It was more like watching a once vibrant person slowly sink into a comfy armchair. Remote in hand, content to watch reruns of their glory days rather than get up and face the world. And so, dear listeners, as we drift towards the end of our tale, let's ponder the lessons of Rome's long nap. Empires, like people, don't always go out with a bang. Sometimes they just forget to wake up. The next time you hit that snooze button, remember, you might just be reenacting the fall of Rome. Before we fully succumb to our historical slumber, let me remind you once more to gently tap that subscribe button. It's a small act that helps keep the lights on in our little corner of the internet. Much like how the last few dedicated civil servants kept the idea of Rome alive long after its glory had faded. And with that, we'll let the embers of our historical campfire fade to ash. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll dream of marble columns and dusty legions of an empire not conquered, but simply too tired to continue. Good night, and remember, even the mightiest of empires sometimes just need a good, long nap.